I'm Ash from Ask Ash, and today I'm taking a tour with Struxit of the 32,000 square meter Ogihara South Africa manufacturing facility at the Dube TradePort in Durban. This 1.2 billion rand project is really a sight to see. Come with me inside while we take a look. Talk to me a bit about this location, because from what I know of Toyota's presence in South Africa, they are kings of the South. I mean, I've gone so far as to understand that the acquisition cost of land there must be so expensive because everybody knows Toyota's just going to keep going bigger and better in that area. But this manufacturing facility is in the north. So explain to me this choice of location and not the usual south for Toyota.
We were involved in the land procurement with the clients, and the land options in and around the south around Toyota were not fantastic, unfortunately.
This is a 32,000 square meter manufacturing facility, which is so refreshing because if you follow my page, I talk about real estate across the asset classes, and we are so used to seeing shopping malls and shopping centers and retail buzzing, hospitality is buzzing, but we all really want to see manufacturing buzzing. We know that it's the job creator. We know that we need the jobs and our economy needs it. So I know a lot of South Africans are going to be super happy to see a project like this take off the ground. Maybe you want to just let us know a bit more about the labor and also Toyota's goals. I mean, why we look at a lot of the car guys leaving South Africa, and here it seems to be they're investing for the long term.
I think it all starts with pressure from our government. I personally don't think the government gets enough credit for it. So the push from the government and the targets from the government on all OEMs, car manufacturers in South Africa, is to achieve 60% local parts manufactured in South Africa. So 60% of the cars will be manufactured in South Africa, and that's by 2035. Toyota currently is sitting on about 40%, and this is another 2% of its components. So it's helping it on its journey to 2035, 60%. This facility will employ 250 people when it's producing all its parts, which is September next year. And indirect employment was over 1,000. So
wow.
It's not just the number of jobs it's creating, but it's the skills that are being taught.
Walk me through what we are seeing here today from start to finish in the production line.
The parts, as you said, are manufactured for Toyota South Africa. The raw materials arrive on this side of the building, and they come through the pressing process. The raw materials are either a steel coil, or steel, what they call blanks, which are just flat sheets. They've pressed into different components, as you can see here, and then they move into the weld shop, which is next to us. And there the parts are welded together to form assemblies, and those assemblies are then taken to Toyota.
And those blanks that I saw that go into the press, I mean, the press machine weighs like 2,300 tons.
But there are different presses. We saw some smaller ones on the far side, pressing a thinner gauge material. This press line here, there's 4 presses. The lead press is 800, then 3 500-ton presses. That tonnage is actually the pressing capacity of the press. Then there's the big guy there on the other side. That's a 2,300-ton press, pressing bigger parts and a thicker material. The parts will move through the welding process, and then they will be taken to Toyota.
And tell me a bit about the scraps. Let's talk about the scraps, because I know when the press goes down, the scraps have to come out.
Yes.
So where do those go?
So what you see here is only half of the press. The rest of the press is underground. It's a 6.5 meter deep pit, and it supports the base of the press. The scrap drops down into that pit onto a conveyor, which runs this way, and then we're standing on the end of the scrap tunnel, which leads out through under that door at the end and into a bin. So there's a tunnel underneath us here at about 6 meters that takes all the scrap away.
And that's below the waterline. I mean, that must be an airtight, leak-free situation.
Yes. So it's watertight to ensure that there's no leaks in the press. So all that concrete there is designed for that.
And I mean, this is when the press is actually in action. I mean, there's a lot of shock going on. And I saw when we did the tour, there's these, what are they called?
Dampers.
The dampers. That's obviously to absorb the shock. I mean, this machine is insane.
Yeah. So there's huge dynamic forces from that press, the actual pressing process. Each press sits on a damper, which helps absorb some of that vibration. And then the pit structure is then also designed to dampen those forces as much as possible. And the whole process is creates a lot of vibration. And we were considering our environments and our proximity to the airport. There's a radar tower just across the road from us, and we were given quite strict levels of vibration to stick to. So it's called a PPV, a peak particle velocity, and we had to come in within their limits and make sure that we weren't going to affect operations at the airport.
Incredible. And as far as Struxit goes, what exactly was your role? Because I know this is a JV between Ogihara Thailand and Toyota. So where does Struxit come in when it comes to this manufacturing facility?
Okay. So our role was that as a consultant was to complete the design and then do the procurement of a contractor and then manage the contractor during construction. And that's included architectural, civil structural, mechanical, electrical, fire, wet services and utilities, so compressed air and cooling water, as well as PM and quantity surveying. We talk about the roof, and I'm very proud of our east elevation, so I'm going to talk about that as well. But that whole east elevation is actually southeast, so it doesn't actually get any direct sun except very early in the morning. But a fantastic opportunity to bring in daylight harvesting and get that light into the building. Sometimes they actually switch the lights off during the day. And then the roof, yes, it's split. It's not symmetrical as you look at it now, because the plan is to extend with another press bay with time. So as we stand on the end of the scrap tunnel, this whole tunnel is going to be extended out into this parking lot.
I've leased a number of warehouses throughout South Africa, and I know when people need, I mean, I know this isn't 3-phase, but even when people need 3-phase, you know, just to do that sort of upgrade can cost north of R1 million. So I want to know, when it comes to, and I just saw the amount of power that is operating in this place, when it comes to finding a site with the right amount of power, how did you do it, or what did you spend?
So that was a huge aspect of the site selection, was finding a site that had the power, or the area that had the power. Thankfully, Dube had exactly what we needed, which was initially the 5 MVA, which will be more when the expansion happens. So these presses and welding machines and robots use a lot of power. So the 5 MVA is driven by the process. And
substations, you had to obviously find substations that already had that capacity.
Yes, so the main Dube substation at the gate had the capacity, and then obviously we built our substation on the site. There's a story to that. That building, the substation building, was the first building that went up almost with the contractor's camp to try and get that finished as quickly as possible so that we could procure the switchgear, which was on the critical path. So we actually had to use temporary power to start installations, and finally got our power from the city as we were plugging in the presses, basically.
And how long did it take to construct this from the ground up and to actually get the parts going?
Beginning of February 2024, the design started, and the practical completion was achieved at the end of March 2025. So basically it was 13 months or just over from inception, from a design point of view, not starting on site, from the design process commencing to practical completion.
Ask Ash is powered by Struxit. Dynamic individuals, collaborative excellence.